I feel like feminists, in a way, have become kind of a meme on the internet simply because of situations like this, and because, well, a lot of them just simply are just like this whole situation unfolding here, and this is the kind of thing that really hurts any kind of argument that you're trying to make. I mean, there's a lot of feminists out there who, you know, honestly, they're not that bad, right?
I don't want my balls sticking to my leg.
Oh, get it on the tape.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th president.
Sure, sometimes they might disagree with you on certain things. That's acceptable to me. I don't really have a problem with it. I still have my opinions on things. But then there's ones like this that just make the whole movement a big joke, that make everyone think that they're all this way and that they're all psychotic. So there's a feminist by the name of Clementine Ford. What a name. Probably hate men too if my dad named me Clementine, but she had shared a story on her Twitter about a mom who basically had to quit her job, which was paying her very well during the whole pandemic because her stay-at-home husband couldn't really cope with the whole parenting thing. But that wasn't really the big problem, right? You know, it's whatever, I guess. You can have your opinions on that story either way. I don't really give a shit. But what she said that really ended up making people think that she's, you know, a little bit cuckoo is she said, and I quote, "Honestly, the coronavirus isn't killing men fast enough." Now, before I even go any further, I want everyone here to imagine if a man was in that situation and said the opposite part, right? Just go ahead and think about what would happen. Imagine what would be said. Imagine what would be done if a man said some shit like that, or if anyone said anything like that about anyone else. It would not be going over very well, let's just say that. Now, obviously this brought a bunch of backlash, and it wasn't just men, which is something that Clementine here is very adamant on, that men are just fragile and they couldn't handle the joke or whatever, because apparently it was a joke. I'll get into that a little bit more later. You can see here, well, Charlie, he shared his story, and honestly, you know, that's kind of shitty to say, right? Because there are people like Charlie out here who are suffering, and if they do get something like this, like, there's gonna be problems. And then you got women chiming in here saying that it was a horrible thing to say, and that even though they've supported her in the past, they can't get down with what she said here. But remember, it's only men who are upset about it, right? Now, before going further, I do want to go ahead and share that with COVID-19, men die at a faster rate than women do. While men and women have the same potential to contract the disease, men are at more risk for worse outcomes and death overall, regardless of how old you are. You can be 14, and if you're a boy, you have a higher risk of dying than a 14-year-old girl. Men are 60% more likely to die than women. They're twice as likely to require intensive care treatment. So, yeah. There you go. Just go ahead and think about that for a little bit. Now, the most ironic part of this entire story, honestly, so far, is the fact that Clementine here has a son. So for her to say something like that, it's quite ridiculous. I always see the argument, men who defend all this kind of stuff online, imagine if it was your daughter. Imagine your daughter in that situation, which I think is a very understandable argument, right? You wouldn't want your daughter to suffer a lot of that shit. But what about her son, right? You want men to die from coronavirus faster, but what if your young boy gets it? You know? Are you gonna feel the same way? You're gonna share the same sentiment? And it comes down even worse than that. I mean, the fact that this boy is being raised by a woman who thinks this horribly about men, that can be damaging to this young kid, right? I mean, what kind of 5-year-old or whatever, I don't know how old he is, let's just say he's 5, what kind of 5-year-old can have a mom saying shit like that and be like, oh yeah, she really thinks I'm good, she must think real well of me. Now here's the thing, Clementine, she says that this was a big joke, right? Like, she didn't actually mean it, she just was making a joke, and it just shows how fragile men are. Well, how fragile men are, once again, imagine if this joke was spun around and you would see all of these feminists freaking the fuck out. Like, it would be instantaneous negative reaction. So if it's how fragile men are, let's go ahead and talk about how fragile women would be in the same situation, because no one wants to hear that shit. And I love how it's automatically a joke after there's backlash. If there was no backlash, it would have never been a joke. She would never have came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, I was joking about this, you know, just a situation, you know, a little ha-ha, a little funny. No, it's because she got a shit ton of backlash, and once again, it wasn't just men. There was plenty of women calling her out for it too. In recent years here on the internet, the whole, oh, it was a joke thing has become instantaneous defense mechanism for shit like this. Like, if someone just says something stupid and idiotic and everyone else is like, hey, bro, you know, you're kind of dumb, immediately it's, oh dude, I was just kidding. It was a joke, bro. You guys can't take a joke. That's what it's become on the internet. Like, it's become hard to distinguish between actual jokes and these kinds of statements because people who are too pussy to take the ramifications of what they say will automatically rely on the it's a joke defense card. Quote, men love to screech about snowflakes and triggered feminists and women not being able to take a joke, and they crumble at the first sign of a hyperbolic tweet that doesn't place them as gods at the center of the universe. Ding dongs, all of them. So here we are generalizing all men. You know, that's something that you would definitely not like if the roles were reversed, because that's just how it works, right? You can say this kind of shit about a dude, but you can't say it about a woman, in your opinion, obviously. It has nothing to do with putting men at the center of the universe and making them out to be gods. It's the fact that what you said was extremely shitty, and it's very obvious that you had that in mind, and now you're just using it's a joke as a defense mechanism, and you're just too scared to come out and openly say that. So to anyone who thinks that this is a joke and this is like a one-off thing that she did, I want to go ahead and present this. In 2017, she hand-signed a copy of her book, quote, Fight Like a Girl, with a message that read, have you killed any men today? And if not, why not? But remember, it's just a joke, you know? It's just a joke. Go feminism, right? This is the kind of shit that hurts these kinds of movements. I don't care what anyone says. It's not the fact of what they preach. It's the fact that the fucking psychopaths and their group come out and say things like this and just make stupid statements. Once again, imagine if the roles were reversed and some dude from MGTOW, which is men going their own way, would have come out and said some shit like this. There would have been backlash. There would have been instantaneous backlash. Like, at a certain point, it's no longer a joke when you make repeated statements like this about how men should die and things. It's no longer really a joke. It's like that edgy kid that you call an incel on the internet who makes those jokes, or the statements that he'll refer back to as jokes, right? You're doing the same thing just on the other side, and it's the same shit that hurts your movement, right? Like, you see all the time how women and feminists say that they should be taken more seriously, but then you see shit like this. How can you expect to be taken more seriously and get the other side to listen to you when this is the kind of stuff that you say? Now, at the end of the day, like, when you look at the history of feminism, like 100 years ago, women were marching to get their right to vote and to be equal in that sense, right? Like, that actually mattered a lot. But then now, New Age feminism is essentially just shitting on men and saying that they should die. You can very easily see how that argument can be made. Once again, not all that actually scared the shit out of me, but once again, not all feminists are that way, right? There's plenty of feminists who they honestly believe that there's issues for women that need to be addressed, and they're very passionate about it and they actually care about it. I wouldn't say that Clementine is an example of that kind of person. What it comes down to is she has a very deep hatred. She is a very hateful person. She doesn't care about any real social issues. She just cares about spouting hatred and ignorance out to people. She doesn't give a fuck about any of these issues that she probably claims to care about. And that's how a lot of people are. They use these kinds of movements and things like that and these ideologies as, I guess, like a pawn to act like they care about shit when they really don't. All they care about is just making people look bad and making horrible statements about other people. And you almost have to feel bad for feminists in that regard because, once again, lots of them are pretty normal people and they actually believe in these things, but then you have these situations that skew people's perspective of them so radically that they now look like bad people even though they didn't really do anything wrong or do anything to deserve that kind of outlook. I mean, when it comes down to it, like, we're living in one of the weirdest periods of time that most of us can ever remember. I mean, this is by far the weirdest period of time I've ever experienced in my life. It's a very serious situation, and it's a very shitty thing to do to claim that a whole group of people should be dying faster from this. And then to lay it down as a joke is even more ridiculous, because it very clearly wasn't. So, honestly, I wish the best for everyone in this situation. It's a very horrible time, you know, for a lot of people. I don't think that anyone should have to suffer from this. And if you're going to use this as a hitch to push your ideology even more, I think that you're a shitty person. I think that's a very shitty and wrong thing to do. Because when it comes down to it, this is not, or shouldn't be, a pawn for people to use against other people they disagree with. We all should be rooting for the best and hoping that people come out of this okay. It's fucking horrible, you know? Like, imagine you say something like that to a family that lost someone from COVID-19. Imagine how they would feel. Imagine what they would say. It's a serious subject, and it's a very serious time in our lives. Not to say you can't make jokes about it, but the difference between making a joke and just being an asshole is simply whether or not what you say is funny. It seems in this situation that even people who follow her, who are, I would assume, feminists, don't find it funny. You can joke about whatever you like if you're funny. George Carlin, Bill Burr, all these people, they're awesome at joking about pretty much anything. Difference is, being funny. Folks, if you believe in something and you truly believe in it, don't do anything to harm that. You know, don't do anything to harm those movements. I really have nothing against feminists, if I'm being honest. I have things against these kinds of people who use feminism as a crutch to just be assholes, but at the end of the day, don't say things that are going to ruin other people's perception of innocent people in these kinds of situations. And like I said, I know that it's kind of a meme on the internet, like, oh, feminists, they all got dyed hair and whatnot, and hate men and everything, but I mean, I think, honestly, I would rather deal with a dyed hair college student who believes in feminism than someone who wants a whole group of people to die faster from a virus. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you to my channel members, your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, apparently dying faster, and signing out.